Hi, I'm Lucas.
And I'm Brion.
And this is the Quacks Podcast. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. We have a special podcast today. We have a couple doctors down from a local health food store called Healthy Habit Health Foods. That's here in Arizona on 7th Street in Bethany Home. And we have a couple naturopaths here, and we're mostly going to be talking today to Dr. Erin Anderson, along with the other doctor, Dr. Dejan. I'm not even going to try that one. And, Dr. Dejan.
Yeah.
And did I say it wrong again? Dejan. Okay.
Matijevich.
All right. Thank you. And we're going to be talking about what it means to be a naturopath, what that's like, what they can do, because I don't think a lot of people know that there are these other doctors out there that do some interesting stuff. So what school did you go to again?
Yes. Hello. So we went to Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, and that's in Tempe, Arizona.
Oh, okay.
And there is about 6 or 7 at this point accredited naturopathic schools you can get a license from. And that's super important to distinguish because when you are choosing a doctor, any doctor, you want to make sure that their credentials are solid and that they can present those credentials and that they've had the right training, right? So some naturopathic doctors don't go through all the right training.
Okay, that's
and
interesting.
So it's really interesting to do your homework on that. So we are licensed physicians in the state of Arizona, so we hold a medical license.
Okay.
So meaning we went to a 5-year accredited medical school. So
before we jump into that, why did you go?
Yes.
Yeah, what made you want to go into this?
Absolutely. So, well, and it's changed over time, and now I definitely see the incredible need that is here for naturopathic doctors. But even just 8 years ago, I didn't even know that you could do this as a profession.
Really?
To be quite honest. I've always had a really deep interest in nutrition and helping people make better choices with what they eat. And that really is as far as I knew you could take it, as far as helping somebody be really healthy, is what they ate and how to help them. So basically being a nutritionist.
So what did you do before you got into medical
So
school?
I got my undergraduate degree in nutrition sciences. So that's my background. And I was always that kid in school who loved to bake things, but I didn't want to bake it the way the recipe said. I wanted to change it and make it really healthy and take out almost all the sugar and add in some other alternative sugar and make it, less flour and less oil, but still make it taste really good. Right. Totally. So that was always me, like altering all these recipes so that, it was healthier. Right. And I do have a background in dance. So I danced, I did ballet for 29 years, 1,000 years, many years. I don't even know how many years. So I think part of that, I was always interested in what to eat because I did things that, as far as exercise and training, that I needed to be leaner. So I was always really interested in what can I eat that tastes good and that's healthy. So that really led me to discovering other ways to help myself with herbs and with other supplements. And so it kind of just cascaded from there. But it really started with the simple question, how can I help people make better choices, but still have them enjoy the food that they're eating?
Okay. And didn't you work at Whole Foods or something at some point?
I did work at Whole Foods. And even before that, I did spend 1 year in a hospital. And I will say,
in a bed?
I'm going to clarify that. As a patient.
Okay. I was like, oh my goodness. Took a twist.
I did work in a hospital for 1 year after I graduated from college. And that was, I graduated from college 8 or 9 years ago, and spending that 1 year in that hospital really made me realize, I saw a lot of the same patients come in a lot. They weren't really getting better, not to where I think they should have been as far as getting the ultimate care they needed. And I basically was doing dietitian intern work there. So I was helping people, fulfill their protein needs and give them heart healthy lessons, which we know where that goes. We know where that leads down to, right? So it was a lot of lower your salt recommendations, things that I just didn't really see a lot of. It wasn't really benefit. It wasn't really helping them. They weren't getting better. They weren't really getting the tools they needed. And then when they left the hospital, they didn't really know what to do still.
Yeah.
They just thought,
so basically, just to sum up, it's like you're a ballerina, you're doing ballet, and you're like, man, I need to eat good foods and stuff.
Right.
And, then you're working in this hospital and you're thinking, these people are really not being cared for that well.
Totally.
And then you're working at Whole Foods.
Totally.
And you're in the vitamin department in Whole Foods? Okay. And, so you're learning about all this stuff and you think, I'm going to go to naturopathic school.
Yep.
And so you sign up for the school was
Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. And I actually decided that while I was at the hospital. And that's what made me start to go do Google searching, honestly. Like, what profession can I do that helps me to get people better? And I was like literally typing in like, what can I do besides being a nutritionist? Because I knew that wasn't really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because that meant being in a hospital, doing kind of what I was doing and not really getting the results that I wanted.
Okay.
So even back then when I worked in the hospital, I was searching like, how can I be a profession where I can help people?
Yeah,
like,
I get
truly,
you.
right? Mm-hmm. And honestly, the more I searched, then that's when I saw you can become a naturopathic doctor and you can go and get your 5-year medical degree and you can actually get a license to practice this kind of medicine. So then I was sold. And I basically, after that, it took me like 6 months. I moved to Arizona, started working at Whole Foods part-time while I was going to school.
Okay. And so then you went to the naturopathic college. And what is that program like? So you said it's 5 years?
Yep, it's about 5 years.
So what kind of, obviously, we don't have to get into the really nitty gritty, but what's kind of like the summary of what that program would be like if someone else was interested?
Right. It's 4 or 5 years, right? It depends how long it takes you to do it. But it's a very intense program, and it is basically like going to conventional medical school, meaning you're going to get all of your anatomy, physiology, pharmacology, biochemistry, all of those basic science.
Yeah.
You're going to get all of those. But then we learn our naturopathic modalities too. So we get tons of nutrition and we get training in herbs and homeopathy. And we learn how to diagnose people. So we learn both sides of medicine, and we have to take 2 sets of boards, of national set boards, to be able to get a license. So, we literally have very similar curriculums as far as the pharmacology side goes and the diagnosing, but then we have to know all of our naturopathic stuff as well.
Okay.
So it's very intense. It's definitely not something I would go into on a whim.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I've talked to several doctors, especially with my involvement with the type 1 diabetic community. And the program for doctors, regular doctors, allopathic doctors, seems pretty nuts. It seems so stressful and intense that it's almost indoctrinating in some ways, and they're teaching you a new language like Latin. And so it's really like this super intense, almost brainwashing in some ways. But it kind of gets them into it teaches them how to think in a different way. And interestingly enough, a lot of doctors I've met get some kind of disease. I've talked to this lady who was in training. She got, RA. What is that?
That doesn't mean you guys are going to get... No, you guys are fine.
Right.
No, what I'm saying is, rheumatoid arthritis. What I'm saying is it that intense? Like, did you come out of this with an autoimmune condition, or do you feel like it was like manageable, or, what is that level of difficulty there?
That's such a good question. I think it's very different for different people and how you handle stress. I think how you handle stress plays a major role in it, because there's definitely a lot of tests. You have to be able to accept failure. You have to be able to get your ego hurt a little bit. You have to be able to be patient, because they're testing you, right? So I wouldn't say I know what you're talking about when you say that, when doctors come out and, they almost are like indoctrinated.
Yeah, their health falls apart. And maybe that's also part of their slave labor that they have 4 years of or whatever after they get out of school. What is that called? Residency. So you guys don't have the residency. It is slave labor. It's like, hey, you're going to work for $10 an hour for the next, 4 years. And
yeah, residency at this point for naturopathic medicine is optional.
Okay.
There just isn't the funding yet. It just hasn't exploded yet as a field to provide even the funding for residencies. There are residencies though, but it's not required yet as a field. So it's optional right now for naturopaths. So we do the 4 years medical school, just like MDs and DOs, and then residency's optional.
Okay. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. There literally just isn't enough to place us all in one. So that's the main issue. Once they find clinics that can accept us and will take on our residency, then it'll probably be where we all have to do them. But right now we don't have to. But I have several friends that have residencies and that are doing it.
Okay. So you guys, you get trained, you get all this, biology, anatomy, then you also get the naturopathic stuff. So, Chinese medicine, homeopathy. Yep. What did you feel about the naturopathic side? Did you feel like that it was a really good education that you could really lean on and use? Do you feel like it was kind of spotty,
So I think as with any schooling, there's parts that are strong and parts that are not strong.
Yeah.
I would say overall, what we are exposed to is so needed in the medical field that I think it makes up for some of the weaker areas, because there just are, especially with naturopathic schools, it is having almost a rebirth, because naturopathy was very popular back in the 1800s. It kind of died off in 1910. I'm pretty sure somewhere around there it started to take a dive. 1920, somewhere around there.
Where the AMA started knuckling down on all the other non-AMAs.
Many of the schools died away, right? So, a lot of these schools are rebirthing, right? So I think with anything, there is room for improvement. And I will say that the naturopathic schools are, especially SCNM, is very good about changing the curriculum and becoming very sticking to what we know works as far as natural medicine, but also changing with the medicine that's changing too, in a way, right? So I think there was good and bad, but overall, I think we got a really well-rounded education. And before we even were allowed to graduate, we had to personally see over 400 patients personally. I had to have personal contact with treating about 400 patients, which is a good amount for student clinicians.
What did you feel was the most useful thing you learned in the naturopathic side that you feel like you use the most and that you lean on the most?
I would say it's a cross between herbs and acupuncture. So far have been the two most useful things. Obviously, nutrition that's just kind of foundational with what we do.
Yeah.
But as far as my takeaway with what has been helping my patients the most, it's probably been herbal medicine and acupuncture. Would you agree with that?
And this is just why it's so important to, before you start working with a naturopath, make sure that they're a licensed naturopathic physician, because a lot of people complete a weekend course or a 1 week course,
really?
And they can say they're a naturopath.
Where do I get this course material?
Yeah, literally.
So we will meet later, doctors.
Yeah, so they'll just do like a brief, they'll get a certificate in naturopathy.
Oh,
and
wow.
so that's why it's important to work with a licensed naturopathic medical physician.
That's scary.
Well, it is scary. It's the Wild West right now with this whole natural health movement. So you got to work with a naturopathic doctor who's actually licensed, who's done their board exams. I mean, we've had placements all across the valley. We've worked in women's shelters. We've done people worked in addiction centers. We've worked with children at elementary schools. We worked at our main campus at the school and at our medical center. We've done, just it's important to keep that in mind.
Okay, cool. So you learn all this stuff. One of the big themes of the podcast is like experimentation. It's like trial and error, trying things over and over again. And so you would kind of say that maybe the best area for that for you guys would be herbs and acupuncture. Maybe you could kind of go into that a little bit specifically on what you found within those.
Yeah, I'd love to, because I love herbs, And I hate when herbs get a bad rap because sometimes people will say, hey, these herbs don't work. And
these herbs don't work.
These herbs don't work.
That's a bad rap right there.
It's true. People say it. And I love that people have access to these kinds of supplements and herbs. I love that you can go and buy them. But unfortunately, when someone goes and buys them, they don't know the right dosing to take sometimes. And it makes a huge difference when you actually take the right dose. So I love educating people on how to take the herb, when to take it, and then they start seeing actual benefit from it. So I'll give an example. I was just treating one of my patients. She has hot flashes. She's around 53 years old, and she was taking this over-the-counter hot flash medication. I'm not even sure which one it was, but it was just an over-the-counter thing. You can go to Walgreens. I looked at the ingredients and it just didn't look very promising. And she was getting no relief from it anyways. And so we dumped that. But I put her on a really solid herbal regimen told her when to take it, how often to take it. I had her come back in a week because I like to follow up. Some things I like to keep a closer eye on, especially like with that, I want to make an adjustment. If I'm not getting the results I want in a week, I want to sometimes adjust. So I had her come back in a week and she was having 20 hot flashes a day.
Wow.
And then
what was in that herb concoction?
Yep. So I know.
1 cup meth. What?
Not your herb concoctions, Brian.
Family secret.
Yeah. So good question. So I did a combo of some maca and I mixed it with some liver support herbs. So like burdock, dandelion, artichoke, things like that for the liver.
Gotcha.
And then I gave her a little bit of Vitex and some red clover. So I did things like it's simple formula, and I was telling her when to take it. And all of those herbs really help to support the estrogen, because that's really what's a lot of times lacking in menopausal women is the estrogen. So that's one way to naturally support those estrogen levels.
Okay.
So she was having about 20 hot flashes a day. And when I saw her a week later, she was down to maybe having like 8, which is a really big improvement. So she was really happy with that, right? So that's a huge thing for someone that was having 20 in a day, and now she's only having about 8. Oh, and I did give her some good old glutathione, which actually didn't know it helped with hot flashes, but I was testing it out for other reasons, for like liver help, and I was noticing it was helping women's hot flashes.
That's great. So that was an IV of glutathione or a pill?
I did give it orally.
Oh, okay.
And I have a feeling if giving it IV would also be a good idea, but I was doing it oral. So the combination of all those things I think helped. But yeah, that was a great outcome. So I'm going to see her again in another couple weeks and we'll see where her hot flashes are.
That's awesome. So I know, speaking of IVs, I know you guys do IVs down there. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of IVs you do in your practice? Yes,
we do a couple different ones. We have Myers Cocktail, which Myers Cocktail, then that's the guy that created the combination. It's a magnesium, vitamin C. It has some electrolytes. Am I missing anything? Oh, B vitamins. Yes. So it's like a little mixture of supplements.
It's kind of like a little multivitamin.
It's a little mini multivitamin.
Yeah, in your IV. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's all mixed in a saline bag. So I would say how we've been using it so far in practice is we have a couple people with Crohn's and some people that have absorption issues and digestion issues, and we've lab tested them, and a lot of them have documented low B12. And so I have a feeling if we were to dig a little deeper, we would find they have other vitamin deficiencies as well if they have low B12. So we've been doing the Myers Cocktail for that. And then most people do it if they feel like they're about to get sick. If they're getting a little under the weather, then they'll come in and get one. It's a nice little dose of vitamin C. And then a nice saline bag helps if you're feeling like you haven't been drinking enough water. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the Myers Cocktail, you said a couple other ones. Yep, we do... with a twist of lime. We do vitamin C IVs. So the vitamin C is good also to help with immunity issues. people have been using it to treat cancer. That's not something that, we can do that, but we would probably refer you to a naturopathic oncologist, which that's actually the next level. If you want to see only cancer, you actually have to, as an ND, you have to go to extra training. So, and you get an extra certification to become a FABNO, and that just means that you can treat cancer as a doctor.
Unless you get cleared by their oncologist. Like today, I'm considering adding in high-dose vitamin C IVs to a patient who's dealing with lung cancer. This gentleman's almost 70 years old. He has a case of stage 4 lung cancer, and we're considering doing these vitamin C IVs for him. But before we could do that, we got to get certain labs ordered to make sure that he's cleared to do the therapy, and his his oncologist has to sign off on it. Has to just be like, yep, sure, go ahead. The primary oncologist that he's already working with has to be like, yeah, go ahead.
Would there be a reason why he wouldn't sign off on that? I mean, it's vitamin C.
Well, yeah, true. So, but that's not at the end of the day, that's not our call to make, because they're the oncologist that's trained in that area of that type of cancer. So we do have to defer to their judgment in that case. And if they said no, then we can't do it. Right. And and he is managing their care, and we would be secondarily managing their care. Right. So we do have to defer to their better judgment for that cancer, because we're not highly trained in cancer. We are highly trained in preventative medicine and primary care medicine, but that doesn't really fall under cancer. Right.
Yeah, it's not like a specialization, which oncology would be.
Exactly. So now if we wanted to go get that, like I said, there's actual doctors that do that for our profession, but we're not trained in that. But we can offer supplemental care for people, especially if their oncologist signs off on it, totally fine. And those therapies, they definitely, from what what patients say, is that they lessen the side effects of the chemo. They make them feel less nauseous, and they have more energy. And that's really important for people that are going through cancer. So, but yeah, that is one IV that we offer. So that's a high-dose vitamin C IV. Today, we also did an amino acid bag.
Oh, interesting.
Yep,
proteins.
We did. So it was a full blend of the amino acids. So we did one of those today. We can offer glutathione pushes, like you mentioned earlier. And we are thinking about adding on hydrogen peroxide IVs.
Okay. What would the amino acids, what would they be used for? Like what kind of person would want that kind of IV?
A couple different types of people that might want to use
peoples. That's a word.
So a couple different kinds of people. So people with mood disorders have found benefit from them, and people that have addiction issues. And that was actually one of the main therapies we did at the addiction clinic down in Central Phoenix. We mainly did amino acid bags, and it just helps to come off of certain types of drugs more with less side effects. So that was just one of the main therapies we were doing for that. So I would say people with addictions, mood disorders, that's mainly what we're using it for right now.
That's really interesting. I've actually never even heard of that. Like,
people that are dealing with even anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, like these eating disorders, they're under eating. They're not even they're not getting their nutrients for the day. So you give them an amino acid bag to help replenish those nutrients that they're missing from the diet.
Like a calorie-free bag of nutrients.
Yeah. And especially when you're dealing with people with addictions, again, we see people that have bad absorption issues, because many of them, either from alcohol or from drugs, their GI system just isn't absorbing the nutrients as it should be from many years of lacking in those nutrients. And many of those drugs will deplete you in those. So that's one of the reasons why the amino acid bag has been very helpful. Okay,
cool. So you said you might have a story or two you wanted to tell that you found while you were treating people. What's going on?
Yep. Yeah, we've been really blessed. We've only had this clinic open officially for about 7 weeks now. And we have been incredibly busy, and it's just been really amazing. So we have definitely a lot of patients that we could talk about. I did pick one that's kind of interesting. it's definitely something that maybe we could follow up on, and maybe you could
That
get
would be
like
awesome.
because it's like in the works, right?
Yeah,
it's
get
not
a 3 month, you know.
Yeah, because it's not technically,
check-in.
we haven't done too much yet, but I have a feeling good things are going to happen. But I am treating it's just as interesting to me because I also do love treating obese people. So helping with weight loss, so important. So I do have a 58-year-old female that came to me with a primary chief complaint of weight loss. That is her main goal. And she wants to lose about 100 pounds with working with me. That's her goal that she set, which I think is very attainable. And we have a whole timeline of how we're going to do it, but it's going to be complicated because I think in some past shows, you guys have talked about intermittent fasting, and I'm sure the people on the show probably are up to speed on that. So I don't have to go too.
What are you talking about?
I don't know if
we
we've
have one
actually,
here.
I think we talked about it one time on a warm up, but I didn't put it into the show.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think so.
I talked about it one time.
Yeah, you did. You did talk about
Okay.
Yeah.
Feelings aren't hurt about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it's only the best. I got to put it. No offense.
So, okay. Well, I guess I thought you guys had talked about it more, but
We've talked about it a little bit.
Okay.
We probably mentioned it here or there. But so you're saying you're getting her on an intermittent fasting.
yes,
and
that's the first thing I'm going to do with her because, I'll preface this. She's about 350 pounds. So we have a lot of weight to lose, and she's
7'3".
She is about 5'8".
Oh, okay.
She's about 5'8".
Yeah.
So, she's very motivated. She's in the right spot to make a change. And that's the first step is the patient in the right mindset to make the change. And she is. So I didn't want to change too much about what she's eating because she's used to eating foods, and foods are very addicting. And if you take away people's foods too quickly,
You can make them cranky for sure.
yes. And
Yeah,
the
too much change all at once.
the compliance tends to go down when you just start taking away major food groups from people.
Okay.
I've even done that before, thinking it was in the best interest of them, and they didn't come back to me. Because if you do too much at one time, the patient gets overwhelmed and they don't want to make changes. And I agree. I mean, to a certain extent, food is kind of personal for everybody, right?
Yes.
So the only thing I really changed in the first couple weeks is just the time frame that she was eating.
Okay.
And I thought that was a good way to introduce it to her so that we can just start making small changes. And then if she even sees a couple pounds come off from that, then she will be more motivated to do other things.
Yeah. And so any other herbs or anything else you're adding to her protocol?
So
or?
eventually I will get there with her, yes, because I do think
Just IF for now.
she's going to need some more support, and we're going to have to change it up as we go because we know
Yeah.
that the metabolism, we need to keep surprising the body to keep weight coming off.
Is there any physical activity that somebody can safely do at that weight where they're not going to hurt themselves? Or?
Yeah, swimming is
Oh, yeah, that's a good
one
one.
thing that I told her, and she used to do it and she stopped doing it. So that's one thing I told her, we need to start that again. That's something that, she has a pool in her backyard. She loves to swim with her dog. Start doing that again. Right. So any kind of activity in the pool that she can do. And she has really bad knees, which she's in a lot of pain really all over. So it's hard to do exercise, right? So we do need to get some of this weight off first. But really, I only changed the time frame that she's eating for now. And I tried to really hold back because I didn't want to introduce too many things at one time.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is going to take a while. And I thought, you know what, and I'm always tempted, right? Because we have so many things we can do for people to help them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, we need to rein it back in because not everybody's ready to make all those changes, right?
Of course, you want to be like, all right, you're going to do this, and then you're going to get a little sun, and then you're going to eat some goji berries at this time.
Right.
And then, yeah, because you read all these studies, and you want to give them everything all at once.
You get
and
so
it's-
excited about it, right?
I know, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I
But
get you.
then just not everyone's ready to do that. So for now, we're just doing
doing a couple things.
Yep.
That's like me as a conspiracy theorist. I start them with the JFK stuff. Then we go deep. That's for another podcast.
Yeah.
So one question I forgot to ask you earlier is, what can naturopaths do? Can they prescribe all the drugs?
yeah,
Can
good
they
question.
prescribe just a few of the drugs?
Yep. We can prescribe drugs, and that's very unique to Arizona from what the state of Arizona will let us do. Not every state will let naturopathic doctors do that, but Arizona is one of the states that lets us do that. So, which is why we get all the extra pharmacology, so that we have to know all the drugs. So we can prescribe drugs. We cannot prescribe controlled substances. So things like Adderall, those types of controlled substances we cannot prescribe.
So all the quote unquote good stuff like amphetamines,
right,
oxy,
right, can't prescribe it.
Yeah, no way.
Nope,
all right,
can't do it.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Oh, that's probably good.
Yeah.
I mean,
so, but everything else we can. So all of your other basic drugs we can.
Antibiotics. How about hormones like testosterone gels or stuff like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We can do all that. Just nothing controlled.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Even though testosterone is controlled, but that's not it's, there's the different schedules.
Yes.
So testosterone is not one of those upper schedule drugs that is tightly controlled.
Gotcha.
So we can prescribe that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, but not every state's like that. So I think Arizona, Washington, maybe Oregon, they have prescribing rights as naturopathic doctors.
Wow. And that is really interesting because I know Arizona is like a hotbed of natural health stuff.
Yes.
And that's probably part of the reason why right there is probably practitioners are drawn here for the extra things that they can do.
Yes. We contemplated leaving after medical school because I'm originally from Texas. So I kind of thought, I'll go back, practice there. But we really realized it would be much harder to practice in a state that's not so accustomed to what we do already. Our state's already very open and accepting and welcoming to what we do. And Texas is not so much. It's still very conventional medicine minded. And so it would be much harder to practice. And now looking back, I'm so glad I didn't move because we can do everything here. So it would have been a disadvantage.
Yeah, Arizona has the widest scope of practice. Like we're even allowed to do acupuncture here. Like if we were to go to California or Colorado or anywhere else in the country, we'd have to get our LAC, license of acupuncture, if we wanted to actually do acupuncture in addition to practice naturopathic medicine. But in Arizona, it was part of our school. It was part of our curriculum at SCNM. So, and we're allowed to do acupuncture here. It's under the scope of practice in Arizona. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that is great.
We both love acupuncture. So, I mean, acupuncture's been used for 3,000 years. So you can use it for anything. It's an amazing tool.
It is. I had an old mentor who was into traditional Chinese medicine. And what he said about acupuncture, I thought was really interesting, is he said basically acupuncture was kind of like the medicine of the masses. So if you were like a rich person or whatever, then you would have somebody who actually came and worked on you, like with their hands, like, and like got your meridians, working well. But acupuncture was the quick way to do it. It was like, you just poke you here, and it does the little thing and you're good to go. And I always thought that was really interesting. What do you guys think of that? Is that true or?
What you just said is really true. And actually Dejan treats a lot of patients with acupuncture, especially with pain. He gets a lot of good pain relief from acupuncture. But what you just said is pretty much true because we do have those meridians that run from the top of our head out to the bottom of our feet. And one of the reasons why they think pain happens and why we experience pain, according to Chinese medicine, is that the meridians get stagnated. And how they get stagnated is either by stress or car accidents or emotional trauma, physical trauma, all the things we experience throughout life can stagnate the meridians, right? And so by inserting needles into certain already predetermined points, it helps to recirculate the energy and help, basically I call them highways running up and down. It makes the highway run better, which then takes away the pain, gives us more energy or whatever we're trying to treat, right? So by putting them in certain spots, it helps to open up that highway again, which is kind of what you were just saying as far as getting the meridian to function better, because that's what it's doing anyways. But by different life events, let's say shoulder pain, they believe really is just a stagnation of those meridians that all run right there. So by helping the local points at the shoulder, but then also the foot points and the hand points, because we need the meridian to operate from top to bottom, right? So it's really interesting. It was one of my favorite modalities to learn because it's so different than conventional medicine. How they treat things and look at everything is very different, but yet they get results. So it's just really cool.
It is really interesting because, I know conventional medicine, it kind of started when we started opening up cadavers, when we started looking at bodies and opening things up, and then we got these very like mechanistic theories of blood pressure and all these things. But back in the day when they were developing Chinese medicine, sometimes they couldn't open up people for whatever reason, religious reasons or cultural reasons. And so they just look at you and they'd kind of be like, well, this guy's having pain here and his cheeks are really flushed. And so they had like, associations of emotions with different diseases. And it was like this really holistic way of looking at medicine. And it got some things really right, by just the observation over thousands of years. It's really interesting.
And they've even shown, because you're right, because they didn't really have the same luxury of opening up the bodies and looking, but yet they still came to some of the same conclusions.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how something about it is working, because they weren't some of the same things as far as like looking at like liver disease, let's say, but they came really close without actually having looked in there. So how they were doing it using, emotions, the way the face looks, the tongue, the pulses, like it all somehow still...
It kind of got there.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's really cool.
Yeah.
If it was ineffective, it would have went away a long time ago. I mean, it's made it with us to 2019, and we're doing it here in the West, USA and Canada. And
trying to. They haven't completely stopped it yet.
Yeah, I mean, we are energetic beings. I mean, we have energy flowing through our body, and that's what acupuncture works on. It works on that energetic meridians through the body, because we are electrical, energetic beings, right? So,
yeah. So that's kind of all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to talk about that maybe I didn't cover that I don't know to cover, or...
Well, yeah, and really it's why you should come see us, and I think it's so important that everybody understands that you should go get a second opinion on, we all need that second opinion. And just because one doctor says one thing, well, they might be right or they might not be, but you deserve that second opinion, and you need somebody else looking out for you, as a whole person. We have a lot of specialists out there, which there's a place for specialists always, but we don't really have someone looking at your whole body. And that's really where we come in, is we can look at the whole person and treat everything. Is everything functioning the way that it should? And you're not just going to, your ear, nose, and throat doctor, right? Who's only really looking at this piece, right?
Yeah.
So really we're looking at the whole body. And I think it's just really important to always ask questions and to get that second opinion.
Okay. And if people want to come in and see you, what do they do?
Yep. So if you're in the Phoenix area, you can call this number, 602-252-6000, or you can go to the website hhhfoods.com, and under the medical center tab, there'll be more information there on how to find us. But yep, you can just give us a call and you can schedule an appointment if you would like. We do 15-minute free consultations.
Oh, nice.
With anybody. And that's a great opportunity to get to know each other and to see if we can help, because I like to be really honest with people. And I like to be able to tell them, yes, I think I can help with this, or no, I think maybe somebody else might be a better fit, or maybe I have another referral for you. So I like to be really honest with people and let them know, like, yes, I think I can help, or no. And then also point them in the right direction too.
And if you choose to work with a naturopathic doctor, that first visit is going to last anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. Because that first visit, we're really trying to get to know who you are. We'll go through the past medical history. We look at medications, supplements. We go through that whole, it can easily go to 2 hours. They often do. So
yeah, that's awesome.
And what we're doing is we're looking for the root cause instead of continuing to suppress these symptoms with a pill or even an herb. There's something called green allopathy or allopathy, however you like to pronounce that word, where it's just, yeah, you're a natural health doctor, but you're prescribing an herb just to suppress the headache. It's the same idea as what they're doing with the pharmaceuticals. And we try to not do that. We try to find out why the headache is there. Yeah, we might give you something temporarily to help reduce the migraines or the headache or the abdominal pain, but at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out why this keeps happening. and then prescribe herbs or do the acupuncture, correct the diet, or do the things for that.
Cool. Well, that is so awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. That was Dr. Erin Anderson. She's a naturopathic doctor. And Dr. Dejan, last name, he's a naturopathic. Yeah, that one's tough. He's another naturopathic doctor. And hopefully we'll have him on another show, and we'll dive deep into something just to get a little bit more in the woods on some interesting topics. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. I love it. I love talking about this stuff.
Yep. And if you're interested in seeing them, Healthy Habit Health Foods, 602-252-6000, or their website,
hhhfoods.com.
Foods.com. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Be well.